Are they really protected if a pump jack or an oil tank or a pipeline is just a couple of feet away? If someone drilled an oil well 100 yards away from San Juan Hill or Window Rock or the Washington Memorial, do you think people would consider that those sites have been protected? I don't think so. And what about Bluff and White Mesa? The BLM wants to approve drilling in Bluff's watershed, right through the aquifer that provides our drinking water. Other leases are just on the boundary of White Mesa. There's a better way than unplanned, unrestricted leasing. Instead of passing this resolution, please ask the BLM to stop leasing in eastern and southern San Juan County until there can be a real planning process to consider the cultural landscape and community impacts. That's what the BLM was doing before the Trump administration killed smart planning. It's called a master leasing plan. It would identify areas that are too culturally sensitive to drill, but also give oil companies certainty of expedited development. That's a win-win. It facilitates responsible oil and gas, it prevents litigation, and it protects sacred sites. So please vote no on this resolution and ask the BLM to resume smart planning for responsible energy development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josh. Ellis?
Good morning. My name is Elise Erler, and I'm here on behalf of SITLA, the School and Institutional Trust Lands Administration. And the comments that I want to make, I'm not sure if your new format is, if they're more appropriate for the public hearing of each of the items that are coming up. But the you have one item that's on a development code ordinances for the Spanish Valley area, and the other is a zone change proposal regarding that. So just in summary, I've worked, well, on behalf of SITLA, we've worked hard with the county staff, and we support both of those agenda items. And does it make sense to make comments further in the public hearing of each of those items? I'm not sure how you...
I don't have any problem with
yeah,
that.
okay, great. So thank you very much for your time, and I will step aside.
Mark?
Hi, my name is Mark Velasquez. I'm with Landmark Design. We are the consultants to the county who drafted the ordinances that are being considered for the public hearing today in Spanish Valley. We are also the consultants that were hired by SITLA to develop the PC zone application in that area. And I just wanted to say that we've been involved with this process for about a year and a half now. And there's been thorough vetting of the public throughout this process, and so we just want you to consider supporting the resolutions. And also, if you would like, we have a small presentation during that public hearing today. We will need some time to set up our projector. So if to give you a little bit of background of what's being considered today.
Bruce Woody?
Do you think it'll project on one of these?
That's what I was thinking, that we could probably put it over here.
Okay.
And just to respond to one of the comments today about the night sky ordinance, it is correct that that was recommended by the Planning Commission not to be considered. We wouldn't want to see that stop this process here. If that were something that were to be considered, that could easily be brought forward as a separate ordinance at another time. So we wouldn't want, as was suggested, that all ordinances not be considered until that is brought on board, that we would recommend that if the commission thinks that that's something appropriate, that they could happen at a later stage. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Terry Johnson.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
My name is Harry F. Johnson. I'm a resident of McCracken Mesa, Utah, in San Juan County. And I have a concern about this oil explorations. We are living right close to where the exploration is going on along the border of reservations. And we need more consultation on it. I think we should more of what kind of exploration with the oil will be drilling going on in there. We need detail on what kind of drilling. Is there going to be horizontal drilling? Because it's very close to our border. Is it going to go towards our reservations? And also, we'd like to have exploration drilling a little bit further out, maybe a quarter mile or maybe half a mile out. I wish we could go further than that because we're very concerned about it because of our water. There's a really good water underground there. When I was in Salt Lake City the other couple of years ago, and I look at the map for waters and for underground, and there were good waters underground there. We don't want to have that disturbed or contaminated with some kind of oil exploration. And then another one that we're concerned about is it going to be there, if be any frackings going on with the oil explorations. And we are very critical on that one. We don't like to have any fraction going on with the oil exploration. The reason also is that our reservation on there hasn't been really fixed yet with the Navajo tribe and who's be really a resident on there. And there is, by federal government, Navajo tribe was told to take care of that land and divide it the way it should be for our grazing land. And that they hasn't done it yet. So we still like to work. We like to have it done before we go into all these other activities that's going on. Also, there's a moratorium on that.
Your 3 minutes is up.
No, 3 minutes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Banham? Oh, Brian Torgerson.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Brian Torgerson. I work for SITLA in Moab. I manage the Southeastern Utah office there in Moab. I'm also a resident of Monticello. I live just up the road here on 249 North, 100 West. And so my comments are in both capacities. First of all, the ordinance that's before you for consideration later today has been through lots of public hearings, and I've sat in many of those. And I appreciate all the comments from the public because it makes for a better ordinance. And I truly believe in that process. But my main comment is there's a lot of belief out there that you can stop growth, and it's my belief that it's very difficult to stop growth. The best thing you can do is organize it in a way that it's disciplined, that it makes sense, that it minimizes impacts to everybody in the environment. And I believe these ordinances will allow for some of the best growth and development in that area of the valley. It's going to continue to get lots of pressure. You're going to continue to see lots of growth pressure. And I think these ordinances, like Mark said, they might continue to grow and evolve over time, but it's a very, very good start. And one last comment, and then I'll end. I believe the ordinances that are in place, the planning and zoning ordinances that are in place now down there, are very old and outdated. And they served a purpose at the time, but those times have kind of changed. And I believe that it's time for an update of those planning and zoning ordinances. And I think it's best for the county. And so I'm just here to recommend that the commission consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. That would be the last of the comment we have. And thank you for your concern and also for the citizens of San Juan County. And certainly we will try to address your concerns in whatever way that we can, either by through email or openly talk about some of these concerns and issues. And they're very important. I believe that some of these concerns are impacting your area, your livelihood. So we will consider that. So thank you very much.
Commissioner, we have one more, sorry.
Okay.
Just so you know, we have a public hearing portion on anything that's being approved, so you can comment in the public hearing part as well, if you don't want to do it right now, so.
Carolyn?
Just play it at the end.
If you prefer, I can wait till the public hearing.
We can do it now.
Okay, thank you.
Don't be shy and.
All right, I'm a little shy. Thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you. I'm Carolyn Daly. I live at 560 Pat Creek Road in the Pat Creek community in the northern part of the county. And I and 5 of us came today from our community to represent our community at the meeting. And I don't want to talk to you about any technical things. I just want to voice my general opposition to the plan development that is happening in Spanish Valley at the south end of Moab. There was the Spanish Valley Area Plan adopted on April 17th, 2018. I don't think anyone from our area was involved in that planning. I did send a letter to the company, but nothing ever happened. It's a huge development plan. They want not only high and low density housing, but supermarkets, shopping centers, an elementary school. They're going to turn Moab, which is, we think, a nice little town right now, into another Aspen or Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where you drive miles and miles through suburbs to get to the nice little historic, charming district. That's what's going to happen there. And I know it means money to San Juan County, but Moab's already gotten overrun. And we need to bring tourists to other parts of the state. So I just feel that the San Juan County resources would be, and time and money would be better used to help the Navajo in the nation, build schools for them, bring electricity to people's homes that haven't had electricity. Why are you putting money to try to build a modern suburbia up in the north when your own people need so much help down here? I just don't understand it, and I think it's wrong. The Navajo suffered way too long, and you're in a position now to try to help and do something about it instead of spend money in all these other kinds of modern ways. So thank you for your
Thank you very much.
consideration.
Okay, moving on. Agenda items, item for discussion, consideration, approval, public hearing. So, do we?
Do a motion to go into public hearing.
Yeah.
So do.
Motion by Willie Gray Eyes to go into the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comment, last questions? There be none. All those in favor in going to
Aye.
public hearing?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Unanimously, we are in public hearing.
So we'll have Walter kind of give an overview of the ordinance of the business license, and then we can open it up to public comment.
Okay.
on that.
Good morning.
Walter? Morning.
How are you? Several months ago, we came in, Natalie, myself, Kelly, and presented a plan to draft a proposed business license ordinance. What you have before you today is that proposed draft business license ordinance. We tried it. The ordinance itself will only pertain to unincorporated areas of San Juan County that aren't on the reservations and aren't in the incorporated areas of the county. We've tried to make it a balanced ordinance that meets the needs of the county, but is not overly restrictive to the residents of San Juan County. Do you have any questions of me about specifics within the ordinance before we go into public hearing? Because I'm happy to address anything that's in that ordinance.
First,
Item M in section 1, license is generally says that no business license is required for the sale of agricultural products which are produced in San Juan County. However, such businesses and businesses must still make application under section 2. I'm not sure if they're not required, if the business license is not required, why do they still have to make application?
Well, part of the purpose of the business license ordinance is so we can know what businesses are occurring where. Right now, we really have no way of obtaining that information. It's especially troubling in areas like Spanish Valley, where you've got residential areas intermingled with commercial areas. So we've got businesses that are going on in residential areas that, as a planning and zoning board and a group, we don't know those uses are occurring, which hampers our ability to, when we get complaints from neighbors about such things, to address those. We'd like to know up front what we've got, make sure they're consistent with our planning and zoning within the county. So simply, it's a tool to allow the county to be able to obtain information where those businesses are located.
You've already stated that there's no business license required of agriculture. I think the agricultural people will look at this as just kind of unnecessary.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they have to fill out paperwork if there's not a license required? I mean, you can go to Extension, you can go to BLM, you can go to Forest Service to find out people that have grazing permits on public land. I don't know. I just think we'll get some objection to having to fill out paperwork for a license when no license is going to be issued.
And that's a valid concern. But I'm just saying that the county's perspective is we'd like to know where those businesses are.
I know that there are businesses that need a license that haven't been licensed in the past. And you need to know that information. Again, I'm expressing the concern from the agricultural standpoint.
Sure.
I think this one also covers what, someone that comes in and sells tractors or sells, because it says agricultural products. I don't know that's pretty broad, I guess, but maybe we need to narrow that down.
Yeah, I think,
and
I don't know, yeah.
And the application process doesn't only apply to the agricultural uses. We aren't going to issue licenses for home-based businesses.
Right.
But again, we'd like them to apply so we know where they are occurring, so we can make sure they're consistent with our planning and zoning.
And then I'd like to know why there are no licenses required on the reservation. We have people that have businesses all of the reservation in San Juan County. Even if you're not going to issue them a license, why would they not have to make an application?
Well, and that's something we didn't even consider. So,
That was my question.
We could. I just don't know if we can do any enforcement on the reservation to say, because we don't have that.
Well,
You need
if you're not going to
do the legal review then.
if you're not going to issue a license, you're not going to enforce. There's nothing to enforce.
well, we have no power to over planning and zoning on the reservation areas. I mean, Utah law does not allow us, federal law does not allow us to enforce that on the reservations. So I guess our thought was, for planning and zoning purposes, there's no need to issue a business license on the reservation if we can't control the planning and zoning.
Then it's double standards.
But you said you want to know where these businesses are for
Well-
just information purposes. You're not gonna enforce anything on certain agriculture or other businesses,
Well-
but you're asking
Sure.
for them to submit the paperwork. It seems to me like you ought to have the paperwork for any business on the reservation, even though you're not gonna issue a business license.
Sure.
You're not gonna enforce anything. You just want to know what's going on. Is that correct?
And if you want to make that addition to this ordinance, we're willing to do that. I'm not opposed to it.
Well, I'd like to have some more clarification on agricultural products. If it's the sale of wheat and beans and cattle and goats and sheep and things like that, that's different than the sale of tractors or farm equipment and farm implements. We need to make we ought to
Define it.
define it a little closer. And if you're gonna require every business in the county to make application, that ought to include everybody within the county borders, whether they're on the reservation or not.
Any other questions?
Well, my question sort of answered, is already answered. I was looking at bed and breakfast being home established, roadside, hay sales, those types of activities that are going on the reservation side of the county. So I guess the answer is applicable to this document is not necessary, but you still want to know the number. But that number is very critical, I think, in terms of what kind of posture do we have in terms of looking at the whole scope of our county as far as business is concerned. The other thing is we can use that justification to seek other funding resources. So in that sense, I think it would be a good instrument to gather information. So last one is that these are applicable only to non-incorporated sections.
Correct.
Those that are incorporated within established city limit or township, those are already in the books, as I understand.
Correct.
So,
Yeah. Cities of Monticello and Blanding each have business licenses that cover their municipalities. To soften this ordinance, we've made it a requirement if you have a business license in one of those cities, we're not going to require you to get
what
an
about
additional.
Bluff?
I'm not aware that Bluff they probably will have business licenses at some point, but if you obtain a Bluff business license, you will not be required to get an additional.
Spanish Valley?
It's unincorporated.
Unincorporated. Yeah, Bluff's the exception. Spanish
Yeah.
Valley's unincorporated.
Okay.
So what do you do with somebody who's got a water hauling business to or from an oil rig? Do they need to make application for a business license?
If they haven't got one within the cities, yes.
Well, They're probably not gonna be hauling, oh, you mean maybe the hauling water out of the city limit?
Yeah, if they didn't get a business
Okay.
license within
Okay.
Monticello, yeah.
Truckers who hauling product in and out or through your county, will they have to make application?
I think if your business is established here as a trucking company, you would. We're not gonna have toll gates that require a business license for somebody to have interstate commerce.
I think that should be considered. We need a toll gate
Toll gate.
on Highway 6 out of Salt Lake. If you're gonna come down here to recreate, you ought to have to pay.
Pay.
Right
So-
here in Monticello.
And the trolls that come with it too.
And a what?
And the troll that come
A
with
troll.
it too.
Well, I don't know. I guess I haven't.
Well, I don't think this ordinance we're not professing it to be perfect, and this is a process, so if we need to tweak it, we're amenable to that.
I think maybe what you started to do was to try and get a handle on vacation rentals in the county was where you were.
That's a huge impetus for the
where you were
for the
trying
ordinance.
to go with the ordinance. but
Correct. But how do you single them out? And I mean, we need to have this as broad as we can to treat everyone fairly. And we've never had business licenses, which to many people outside the county is completely absurd.
Will you have people who offer guide services in the county of any kind? Will they need to apply for a license?
I think if they're established in the county, yes. If it's, and it would not be a home-based business, so yes.
Well, they might be home-based.
But home-based has a definition in the ordinance, which kind of, the activities have to be done basically in the home. You're not going outside to conduct your business, which,
River runners.
yeah. If you have
The other settlement is Mexican hat.
that's unincorporated. The exceptions would be Monticello, Blanding, and Bluff.
Okay, that's all I have. Emmett.
Motion to exit.
No.
No, you still need to.
Take public comment now.
On the ordinance.
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, let's go right into the public comments. Sir?
So the rules on public comment, 3 minutes. If it's been said, no need to say it again. And please be nice.
Bill Love, Spanish Valley. Couple comments. One is, I called yesterday to see this ordinance, and I was not able to find anybody in the city to give me a copy. Please do not approve anything today until the public has a chance to look at this. The first step would be to put it on your website. The second step would be to have a list of people you send emails to and send them the ordinance. Including that would be also your total package. But that's the second step. First step, please put these on your website so we can review them and we can make a comment about what's going on here. The business licenses will give you thousands of dollars, not just because of the license fee. TRT taxes. I am from Grand County. I left Grand County 6 months, a year ago. These people should be collecting TRT taxes that should be going to this county. You will never know who they are unless you have a business license on everybody that you can then monitor and collect that money. Grand County lost hundreds of thousands of dollars because they did not monitor these people who were opening bed and breakfasts. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chairman, is this limited to the proposed business license ordinance?
Yeah, we'll have a public hearing on the other ordinances as well. So this one's just the business license.
Back there?
My name is Sarah Fields. I'm a resident of San Juan County, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. I would reiterate Mr. Love's statement. I have not been was not able to access a copy of this proposed
It's already
ordinance.
been stated, Chairman. We don't need to have it restated.
If anything has been stated right before, you didn't.
All right. One suggestion is because certain types of businesses need to be licensed and other types of businesses don't need to be licensed, but there could be a process just for a notification so that certain agricultural enterprises or other enterprises that don't need licenses can be required to notify the county of their existence. You can have a form available at the county courthouse. You can have forms available at libraries and forms available online so that you would have a good idea of all the types of businesses, whether they're on the Navajo Nation, the Ute, White Mesa, or Spanish Valley, or all the other unincorporated sections of the county. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Way back there.
My name is Carol Van Steeder, and I live in San Juan County. And the short time I've had to review this ordinance, I see it as much too broad and see it putting unneeded regulations and a lot of shackles on really small business. It requires every business from making crafts and jewelry to at home to fishing camps to hospitals and storage facilities and more. There's everything in there. Often these types of ordinances stem from one issue the county is trying to remedy, but then an enormous umbrella type ordinance is made over everyone to try and solve one problem. It includes all the residents of the county. It would require someone simply who wants to collect wood or make jewelry and sell it at a craft fair to get a license. Good intentions, I feel, are often get complicated and create a huge amount of bureaucracy. This seems like a planning and zoning issue that needs to be dealt with in another way. Not an ordinance that requires intense regulation and up to $1,000 fine or a possible imprisonment or a Class B misdemeanor, as it says in there, if you're in violation. So I'm hopeful that there's another way of solving the problems or the issues or the things that the county needs to find out without doing something like this. Thank you.
Anybody else?
My name is Marilyn Tahi. What you guys are talking about, there's a lot of Navajos that are on the reservation, like you said. I mean, that's their way of life and everything. And a lot of these people don't understand the Anglo part of the business and what is required and everything. I think you're kind of shutting them down because they don't understand the businesses, how it goes and what the ordinances will do to them. And I think if you're going to pass an ordinance, I think you should let all these people that have those businesses and tell them this is what we're going to do. What do you think about it? Let them find out. You know, maybe invite them specifically and have them come in. Otherwise, you're just overlooking them and they're just over there. Nobody's talking in their behalf. And, you know, there's a lot of older people that are going into the different businesses. And a lot of these families, that's their way of life. That's the only income that they get. And so if you prevent them from doing other things, then that will be really harsh on them. But, you know, just consider their education level and that they don't understand the whole business part. So if you could just let them know what's going on, it would probably be appreciated.
Thank you. Anybody else? Sorry?
Yes, Burton Black. I live here in Monticello, by your road shed now. I just think that it's important to note that taxation begins with registration. You say you're not going to tax them now, certain businesses, certain that you just want them to register, but that will lead to taxation.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I guess that's about it, Kelly. And
So do a motion to come out of that public hearing.
Motion to exit public hearing.
motion to come out of the public hearing and second by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, unanimously. And move on down. Consideration for, oh, we just barely got that one done, right?
So that's if you guys want to vote on this ordinance today.
Well, if it's brought upon us, two commissioners, would you like to act on the resolution today, or would you like to consider a little further date to act on that particular item?
Chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to table it until further inquiry be made to the extent that all applicable and affected small business, home business, roadside business, those could be notified properly throughout the county and see what kind of response we receive. Possibly for May meeting.
Okay. A motion is made by Commissioner Gray Eyes to table the item to have a further study, public hearing, whatever it needs to take to have the full input by the county, communities, and get all the data in place to bring it before May's meeting. That's the motion on the table, and do I have a second to that?
I'll make a second with comment.
Okay.
I think we've had enough public comment today and input that we need to take some time to consider what we can do to deal with the public comment and the concerns that have been raised. And so that's the reason I would second the motion, is so we can take some time to further refine the ordinance to actually do what needs to be done to address any problems that we have at this present time.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Adams seconds the motion to further enlighten some of the concerns and also how it's going to impact the community or the communities. And I'd like to thank both of the commissioners for that. This is the public and the community's county, our county, where it should be thoroughly looked at from every angle to make some to take a position from this commission. So all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimously. Thank you. So Walter, take that and evaluate that and see what you can do. Thank you.
Make a comment.
we just barely made a vote on the particular item. We're moving down to consideration for approval of business license ordinance and public hearing. So a motion would be in order to make another motion to go into public hearing.
Well,
A motion by Commissioner Adams, and do I have a second?
second.
Second by Commissioner Gray Eyes, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are into another public hearing at 11:30. San Juan County will hold public hearing and considering to amendments to County Subdivision Ordinance 2016 with the inclusion of ordinance for all the resident zoning, district planning, community and zone, district highway, commercial zoning, district and water ethics and landscape for Spanish Valley. Okay, we are in public hearing. Do I have any comment from the community today, sir?
I have been involved in community affairs
State
with
your
Grand
name,
County.
sorry.
Still love. I've been involved in community affairs with Grand County for 30 years. Therefore, I do have quite a few opinions and a lot of experience in working with them. I looked at your plan that was prepared for the Spanish Valley. The first page, the second page, was a drainage plan. Floodwaters coming across that valley out of Pat Creek. That is going to go into Grand County. Every time you put in a solid piece of ground there, you're increasing Grand County's floodwaters. You cannot make a development here without working with Grand County. Grand County has a flood plan. It's a fairly good one. They haven't done a thing with it because they don't have the money. You must coordinate your flood plan with their flood plan. You must coordinate this dark skies. The dark skies does not mean lights. I realize that you probably have lived in areas where it's so dark you can't see what the cow is doing. That does not what it means. It means the lights do not go down on the ground. You get a better lighting, you get a better thing, you get tourists, you get people. That must be coordinated with Grand County. You need to set up a group in your planning commission who will coordinate these things to make sure it's not going to be a lawsuit 10 years down the road when you're flooding out the center of Moab City and these type of things. The roads are the same. You have road problems. They have a road plan. Your road plan must coordinate with their road plan. You can't just end your road at the county line and have them build another road somewhere else at the county line. It's not going to be done. I'm afraid that you have a water problem down here. You have 500 acre-feet of water. You have a horrendous amount of Colorado water. You will get no more. You need to get into the USGS study that's been going on in Grand County. The USGS says we have 6,000 acre-feet of water still available in the aquifer. It is majority owned by Moab City. They have the oldest water rights. The other part of it is owned by GWSSA. They have all the water rights from an old ranch. You have nothing, but you do have a huge amount of water in the river. Unless you can get money to develop that water, you would do no development. 500 acre-feet, you can build probably 1,000 homes if you conserve water, half an acre-foot per house a year. You have currently 250, 300 homes down there now. You don't have much water to do anything. So it's why I'm very concerned that the residents get hold of the water rights and on their own board and control it. You've got a lot of work to do. I'm really feeling for you because I can see what you can do for 20 years from now. I won't be alive when this is done. But you need to coordinate with Grand County on many, many of these things and just not plop them out there and have them in conflict. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a correction. I think the state of Utah owns all the water. I don't think.
You have a water right of 1,500 acre-feet, 5,000 acre-feet.
I
They give
didn't
you an
talk about
allocation of
the
500.
water right. I said the
Yeah.
state of Utah
they
owns
own
all
it, yes,
the
yeah.
water.
You have the water right.
I don't think Moab owns the water. I think the state of Utah owns the water.
Moab's water right, the oldest water rights in the
I'm
county.
not talking about
Okay.
water rights.
Okay,
I'm
well,
talking
that's
about water.
Water, yes, I agree with you 100%. The state owns the water.
Thank you.
But the Moab Irrigation Company has 1,800 water rights. Moab City has the next oldest water rights. GWSSA has the third oldest water rights. You have the youngest. And I know if you ask for more water, can't not believe that Moab City won't sue. You need to coordinate with them.
Okay. Anybody else? Back there? Just to remind all of you that we do have a microphone sitting here and we have a camera going, so for the record, make sure you state your name for the record and please speak into the microphone. Thank you very much, ma'am.
My name is Sarah Fields. I too lived in Spanish Valley on the Grand County side for about 6 or 7 years and have a long connection with that area. I request that you table this resolution to adopt this ordinance until there's proper notice, until every person in San Juan County has the opportunity to actually read the ordinance, because it's been placed online, or copies are available here at the library and at the county courthouse. One of the concerns I have in Spanish Valley is dust. There are times when you can barely see the sides of the cliffs in the Moab Valley because of the winds and the dust that comes into that area. So the more that you clear land without specific requirements for dust suppression, for revegetation, the worse this situation will be. Moab residents complained to me about the area that was cleared as you were putting in sewer and water lines, and they felt that it wasn't necessary to create such a wide area of vegetation removal. So I think that the county of San Juan really needs to pay attention to how much vegetation removal is required for any type of development in that area where people are submitting applications, where the county itself is doing the work for various roads and sewer lines, because dust could become a major problem in that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Back there?
Hello again. My name's Jeff Matson. I live at 555 Pack Creek Road in Pack Creek. I just want to make a comment again about the dark skies. Mr. Vlasic from Landmark said don't table the ordinance approval because no dark sky regulations are involved. They can always be added later. The Planning Commission stated that the dark sky ordinance could be established by individual developers. I just want to say that light pollution knows no development boundaries. And then Mr. Bird from the Planning Commission staff stated that Spanish Valley development needs to be organized and done logically. I guess my comment on that is trying to implement something like dark skies after some development has already been done is a little bit too late. I mean, I think this needs to be done, you know, as it was initially in the proposed ordinances. I think that ordinance needs to be brought back in. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else back there?
Good morning again. Elise Erler with SITLA. I just wanted to address a couple of points that I don't think have been addressed yet. And that is, first of all, the amendment to the ordinance that's before you it consists of 4 different parts. 3 are specific land use types, and the 4th one is a water efficient landscape. The the thinking, I believe, behind the subdivision ordinance and these amendments is to provide structure for orderly development over the long term. And from Sitla's perspective, we haven't done any development yet, so this gives us the guidelines, the rules to work by, rather than kind of going in with very limited rules and we can do whatever we want. I mean, we're imposing more obligations on ourselves, which we're willing to do because we think that in the long term that provides a better outcome for the whole county and the whole Spanish Valley. The fourth of the little ordinances that you're looking at, the Water Efficient Landscapes Ordinance, I think is very important because water is clearly an issue, and you've heard that from other comments. But because we're located, this whole area is located in a low water use region, the wise use of water and not thinking that you're in New England where you can have lots of large lawns that are watered every day is really inappropriate for the use of the limited amount of water that's there. So I believe what the Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance is trying to do is really help use that water wisely that's available and not be inefficient about all that. So thank you for my comments. I did want to also comment briefly on the dark skies not being in this package. That was a call by the Planning Commission. Sitla, as a landowner, large landowner in the Spanish Valley, will be developing that land. We won't be the developer. We will engage developers, find a developer to come in and do the actual development. But we're starting the process of putting together the rules around how that development could happen, and that will include a dark skies ordinance. So we will self-impose that on our property. We have no right to impose that on any other property, and I will point out that there are already existing residences in the Spanish Valley that may or may not be applying, dark skies ordinance type behavior with how they deal with their nighttime lighting. So just to give you some understanding on that. Thank you very much for your time. Excuse me.
Who is the largest private property landowner in Spanish Valley?
I believe it's Sitla, and I think you will see a presentation here shortly on, probably for the next agenda item, to see how much of that land we do own, and we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ooh, be careful. Sir?
For the record, my name is Brian Torgerson. I work for Sitla, and I'm also a San Juan County resident. And I'm not going to repeat a lot of other things that are already talked about, but one thing I do want to touch on is most communities, they do these general plans and land planning exercises every 10 to 15 years. And then in between those times, they update specific ordinances as they see that they need to make adjustments. And I believe this one is well beyond that timeline. I think it's probably been more than 20 years before the general plan, and this area has been, rezoned or reconsidered. And so it's just timely. Once again, I wanted to say, I've been to all these public hearings. I've reviewed these ordinances, and I believe it is timely. And there can be adjustments made as things evolve and as you see things need to change as development's occurring and making adjustments. And that's what most communities do. They'll plan every 10 to 15 years, and then they'll make adjustments in between. And I think this ordinance is ready to be approved, and we appreciate all the public involvement, and I'm just here to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner, can I say something?
Okay. Yeah, there's one more, but okay.
Good morning, gentlemen and Yate. My name is Susan Barrell, and I'm from San Juan County as well, northern part. My concern is on several factors that I don't know are part of the zoning process. One is, do they do the due diligence for, for instance, archaeological clearances up there? Because I am aware of an archaeological large site that is there that was just recently taken care of. So when you are removing the soil, you do have villages there. Second of all, the Raptor surveys. Are they taking their due diligence on that as far as with SITLA to make sure that those are taken care of, not only with the building sites, but the airstrip that's coming in and things like that. And of course, then again with the lights. So you have several different factors that you're needing to look at with due diligence as far as the SITLA or the BLM and taking those into account. And I'm not sure if they've been done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am? Should we take one more, that's it?
Yeah, I'd like to make a public comment.
I'm Carolyn Daly from Pat Creek. I forgot to mention before that we have 41 lots there that are taxpayers, so we're not just a handful of people. I just think that these ordinances are very important and that they're very complicated and that they need further scrutiny before they're passed. I don't see any reason why they have to be passed right now. That I was not aware of all this community input they're talking about, but as far as I know, the majority of people in that part of San Juan County in Spanish Valley are terribly opposed to all this development. They don't want supermarkets and they don't want Walmarts and shopping malls, and these ordinances would allow that. And I just think it's a very important issue for the future of the northern part of the county that needs further investigation by the commissioners and also more further input from actual residents of that area before it's decided upon. And I don't see why it has to be rushed into. We're talking about a long-term plan for development, and these things aren't something that are needed today. They can be done even a year from now. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, I guess that will...
Can I make... So my name is Kelly Pearson. I'm the San Juan County Administrator, also a resident of Monticello. I've been a part of this process from the beginning, commissioners. So back in 2017, we bid out a planning process with Mark Vlasic and Landmark. They held a numerous amount of public hearings. They even went to little town hall meetings. They went door to door and got input. We sent out, as a county, we sent out mailers inviting the public to these meetings. And I feel that we have held many, many public hearings on these ordinances and the process. The planning and zoning has had it for over a year. It's been on their agenda multiple times. And have had many opportunities for the public to come. The San Juan County has not put very much funding into this. This is a special service district, Spanish Valley, San Juan Spanish Valley Special Service District. They sought their own funding for the water and sewer, and there's 230 residents. We currently have 240 people that have signed up for the water and sewer currently. So they are for the development. The zoning, I think the growth is coming. It's great to have organized growth with these ordinances. I think we are ready to make a decision on this. And I think I didn't want to step on Mark Vlasic's presentation, but again, he has had many opportunities to allow the public to come address the concerns on the ordinances. And I really appreciate SITLA's involvement on helping spread the word and being involved in the process as well. So just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Back there? We need to act on this?
Yeah, we will.
I hate this speaking in public, so excuse me. But I'm also from Pat Creek Ranch. I'm Connie Witt. And the first thing I want to do is apologize to the county commission because I've been a resident for a long time and have not been doing my civic duty by being here firsthand to hear all this as it's gone along. So I think that as you're moving to our part of the county, suddenly you're seeing us showing up. And I feel like I should have been showing up all along. But I know at Pat Creek, We're planning to keep an eye on the calendar, to come to the meetings regularly, and to be more participatory. And that's not meant in a confrontational, but as a civic duty kind of way, because I blame myself for not having been here all along. I don't know if any of those meetings were held out in our part of the county. So I think that we weren't paying attention. You know, our roads are plowed by Grand County. Our kids go to school there. So naturally, we pay attention there because they're in our daily life. And now you're in our daily life. So I think we just appreciate.
The roads are plowed by Grand County?
I think so. It's been back and forth.
Just the snow removal.
Snow.
Just
Yeah,
snow
it's been back and forth. So.
And who pays for that, Kelly?
San Juan County contracts with them.
Okay.
They've been doing a good job. There's no complaints. But I think that as we're involving all the parts of the county, I don't know if any county in this nation has this kind of issues of this huge area, the diversity. It's a hard job to represent. I don't think I've even met the people that represent where I live here. So I just would like to encourage us to be open and not confrontational, but just know that we just want to find out what's going on and be included. And I want to do my part. I owe you. I didn't go to those meetings. I take responsibility for that. So I just want to say I don't know if you can have meetings in different places legally, but if an informal meeting down our way, again, I know it would be appreciated. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I didn't faint.
Commissioner Maryboy, Mark is ready to do a presentation if you want him to do any type of
Okay. Yeah,
so.
let's do that.
And we apologize, we just painted the room, so we took the curtains out to paint and we haven't put them back up. So I don't know how visual we'll be able to see it, but we'll try, all right? We took down the projector to paint, so I'll turn the lights off. Yeah.
I bet if you point it away from the windows, you're going to have better luck.
Yeah,
you want to do
you can certainly do it wherever you think that is best for people to see. Can you help me move the podium?
The window.
You want to use the podium to your right? Yeah, I just need to get I'll record it.
Kelly, we could put that table in the hall against the window. Maybe try to block something.
I think we got it. We don't have a signal.
Explain these things as new regulations so both sides
We have meetings and meetings and meetings and it shows up.
See, there's 3/4 of it.
Can you
Go ahead.
Can everybody see? And do I need to speak on the?
No. Yeah, if you want to sit down there,
Yeah.
I can flip it for you.
Yeah, all you have to do is just push there. Okay. Thank you for. Thank you for allowing us to present here. Again, my name is Mark Vlasic. I'm with a company called Landmark Design. We're landscape architects and city planners. We've been in operation for about 35 years. And we, as was mentioned, we were contracted with the county to do the ordinance. But I want to give a little bit of backstory. If you could go to the next story or next slide. The ordinances are part of a process that have been going on, it was mentioned, for about 2 years now. The first thing that we did was the process that Kelly was talking about was we developed what's called an area plan. And can you go forward a couple of slides? This drawing here represents what's contained in the area plan. It was, we spent about a year preparing this. As was mentioned, we had many public meetings in the county, in the valley. We held them at the Water and Sewer District offices. I believe that we had a total of 5 public meetings. We did go door to door, met with some neighbors to talk to them. We had focus groups. We met with different groups with interests in the community and residents, other things like that. But as far as the concerns by the Pat Creek group, we didn't specifically reach out to that portion of the valley. It was more on the north end of the valley. But this plan, again, we prepared this, and this is the basis that the ordinances are based upon. We prepared this plan, took it through a public adoption process like this, and it was adopted in April last year, so about a year ago. So when this basically, it has been adopted as an amendment or an addition to your existing general plan. It serves to point out and provide direction for the Spanish Valley for the future. Then, as contained in the plan, it recommends next items to happen, and one of the first things was to develop a new set of ordinances, because as was pointed out, the existing ordinances are really to control agricultural development and highway development. And what came out of this plan was a different vision for the valley. It was very clear that while highway commercial development was a small part of it, the people who participated did not want to create a community like Moab. It was actually the antithesis of Moab. It was about having good planning along the highway for highway-type commercial uses, and to create an internal community within the valley, with the Spanish Drive being the sort of main street of the city. We did a lot of extensive analysis of the physical, and particularly the physical conditions of the valley, looked at water and drainage and stormwater slope, that sort of thing, and developed a concept, which is represented here, that basically puts the more intense development, whereas in the orange areas, which is the flattest and best developable land. And as it approaches the foothills and stream bodies and things like that, the development gets a little bit less dense and becomes intended to be that it will be more adjusted to the landscape. It also incorporates the drainages into an open space system that will be used both to convey stormwater in what's called a low impact development concept, so using natural systems as much as possible instead of curb and gutter and storm systems. And also we'll go into more detail, but we've taken a close look at the road hierarchy, how it's going to work so that traffic can get through here. It has an extensive multimodal transportation idea for the future, with the core of that being bikeways and trails. So if we go back, so this plan was adopted, so that is now law or ordinance in the community. And so we were then tasked by the county to come up with ordinances. And the three key ideas that came out of the plan was to really use the future municipal water and sewer systems to the best possible way. And as you all probably know, this area is served only by septic and private wells or shared wells, and there is an idea of it's actually underway right now of establishing a municipal type water system. So it's really important that the planning take best advantage of that. And just the idea that it is a well-planned area. The ordinances should be more robust and thorough than the current ordinances, and incorporate state-of-the-art or really model ordinance ideas that will create a community rather than just a development. Again, the idea was to keep incompatible uses away from each other, so the highway commercial and sort of any sort of business, major business would be along the highway, but the residential areas would be internal in the valley. that we have a lot of thought and detail about the types of development. There's a wide range of, as was mentioned, of housing that's proposed or that would be accommodated under here. Everything from large lot single family to higher density uses and townhomes. And then just use something that's easy to implement and control, understanding your resources here in the county. So if we go to the next slide, this is, and I'm sorry, I apologize for not being able to see it very well, but basically what this is showing is the study area. That yellow line about 1/3 down is the county line. So this, yeah, if you, is it moving forward on its own?
Yeah.
You need to pause it. And,
that's all right.
Okay. So the yellow is existing residential. This is mainly 1 acre lot and larger, all on septic systems. What is shown in white is undeveloped, so it's vacant land. Those are private lands. And what is shown in the grayish color is the Sitla lands. So you can see by far Sitla is the largest property owner. You have Ken's Lake in sort of the middle off to the right. What's shown in green is BLM land. If we go to the next slide. This is your existing zoning. So that entire valley is zoned for 1 acre lots or larger as agricultural type uses. And there's commercial allowed anywhere along the highway right now. As with all of your major roads throughout the county, you can put commercial for about 1,000 feet along the road, which never, ends up with a very good development pattern. So again, this is the vision for the future. We go to the next slide, and these are the ordinances that are being considered today. We have a specific ordinance just for the highway development, commercial district. We have the residential district ordinance for the, that's for basically where you have the private properties under 200 acres in size. And then we have what's called a planned community zone, so for larger properties to create sort of planned developments. And then we have the water efficient landscape ordinance. And it was correct that we did also prepare a dark sky ordinance, and the Planning Commission did not recommend it for being brought forward today. The residential district, the first one, where it's smaller private lots primarily, it's about coordinating development. It's kind of a topsy-turvy area out there right now, and it's to get some, as future development comes in, and that when you have a water system like that, to have 1 acre lots is very inefficient and very expensive, so there's opportunities for densification in those up to, depending on the particular characteristics of each project, up to 4 units per acre. Doesn't mean that every place will get 4 units per acre, but it means that if they can meet all the requirements of the zone, it can happen. We also, when we look at the highway commercial district, it's really about getting good highway development and adequate control of that type of development. Those lists, there's the sort of things, the way that the ordinance is broken down from standards to, instead of housing types, it's commercial types, and it addresses all the types of development conditions that need to be met for a commercial property. And then we have these small, these are right here. Go back. So this is the planned community ordinance. This is primarily the Sitla lands, and it's for bigger developments, and it's really to encourage different types of development where you preserve open space perhaps and concentrate your development so that you get good public amenities, and you preserve the view corridors, and that you preserve drainage corridors, that sort of thing. And then we have the water efficient landscape ordinance, which is, as Elise earlier had said, is based off a model ordinance that's provided by the Jordan Valley Water Conservancy District, and that it's been modified for the climate and the conditions in San Juan County. So what I have now is a presentation for the next item, and I don't know if I should wait or just do it.
Let's wait.
Can we ask Mark questions? Since he's given a presentation to everybody?
That's up to the chairman.
We normally don't, but I will allow.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Mark, can you go back to the future planning for us, please, on that?
The map.
Yes. Okay. It shows the, okay. On the very, is it true that on the very southern part of Grand County and that very northern part of San Juan County, that's all primary residential right now?
Maybe I have a pointer to show me where you're talking about.
Okay. Where's the county line here on this one?
County line's just at the top.
Okay, okay, that's good. I see it. Okay, is it true that right now in through here and in through here, this area right now is all primarily residential?
Yes.
Okay. There is a little bit of business section right here, correct?
There is current business.
This 5 small. They do have a light problem on the one, but the other 4 are very comparable. Is it true? Is there another picture that I've seen that showed a river or sky ranch right in here? Is that in existence?
I can't speak to whether it's been approved or not, but I know that it is planned for.
It's planned. Is there an airstrip right in that little section?
There is a private airstrip.
There is a private airstrip right in this residential section that you said is all primarily residential.
Right.
Alrighty. And is there any plans or future for a major gas truck stop into this area?
I believe there is.
There is. That's also primary residential, isn't it?
It's also commercial.
No, it's commercial, no, 1,000 feet off.
It's not. It's accessed off the highway.
It's accessed off the highway at that 1,000 feet. In all your meetings, one of the topics that was brought up was a airstrip, and that was soundly. Wasn't it true that that was soundly turned down by the people in voicing their opinions?
The people expressed concern for it.
They did.
Yeah.
And on this commercial development, wasn't there also concern to keep the commercial development farther down the line a little bit, away from the residential, have a buffer from the residential? In other words, that 1,000-foot output would not be cooking into all this residential area.
There was an expression that the 1,000 feet didn't make sense. It was arbitrary, and that commercial should be located along the highway where it made sense.
Right. He also said on the other side of the highway, if possible.
Right.
And making this a 4-lane highway, and also, again, that buffer from the residential. That airstrip is not buffed, is it?
The airstrip's been there for 30 years.
No, we're talking about the old airstrip?
No.
It's a private ranch.
No, the new one. The ranch strip is not.
Yeah, it's been there for 30 some odd years, and
30
has
years.
houses built along.
But it's not being used, is it?
It's always been active.
It's been active.
Yeah.
So that's your excuse for putting it back in there in this residential thing and developing San Juan County is because it's active, never mind a residential buildup that has gone around it.
So to answer about Sky Ranch,
Getting
we
ready to wrap
did
yeah, shut them down.
Yeah.
All I can say is that we acknowledge that Sky Ranch exists and that that there are property rights associated with it. We did recommend and did a study on state-of-the-art control of that type of airstrip, and it was recommended in the plan that boundaries and buffers be put around it, and that is all contained in the plan.
Did a Raptor study get done?
What's that?
Was the Raptor study done on that too?
I don't know what that is.
Try to wrap it up. We're
So
gonna have
yeah,
to move on.
so that was my presentation. I don't know if there's other questions. So that, just to clarify, this plan has been adopted. That's what
Okay.
the ordinances are based on.
Sir, I have a question on this plan. Just, I don't know if there's any of the planning commission folks here, but why was dark skies ordinance removed? I've listened to the tapes. It seemed like it was kind of joked about that maybe Bluff should do it, and no one wanted to discuss it. I'm just trying to understand why it was removed. Mark, you were at that meeting.
Let's get to the point. Who knows why it was removed?
I'll speak to that if I may. People correct me who are also there. Elise touched on this earlier before, but Sitla is the major landowner here, And the other major landowner is Mike Bynum, but we will probably enforce dark skies as part of our CC&Rs. And so therefore, that will already be considered. So I think the Planning and Zoning Commission was thinking that it didn't really need to be in there because there was a lot of existing residents already in place there who weren't maybe in compliance, and it wouldn't apply to them anyways because they're grandfathered in all the existing stuff that we would do would probably incorporate it anyways. And so I think it wasn't necessary from that standpoint. It was considered, it was discussed heavily and debated heavily, but that was the reason why it wasn't in there, because we will probably.
And I can't say that the plan, so this is just a drawing, but the plan is, you know, hundreds of pages. It does support night sky ordinance. That's why we took the effort to prepare a night sky ordinance, but the Planning Commission did not, for their reasons, did not feel that it was time to go forward with it. They did request that we keep a copy of it and it can be considered at a later time, but they didn't feel like now is the time to consider it.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on, and we have some other items that we need to consider as well. So we need to get out of the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Adam to get out of the public hearing. Do I have a second?
I will.
Well, Commissioner Gray Eyes, any last comment, questions? There be none. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Okay, moving on down to consideration for approval, amendment to the county subdivision ordinance public hearing. Do we need to go back into public hearing again?
Nope.
Not
all
on
right.
this, yeah.
Good. Okay, could we have the lights back on, please? Okay, Commissioners, before us, the San Juan County will hold a public hearing on the consideration to change to the Spanish Valley Sitla phase.
Oh, we need to consider the item just before that.
Okay.
Approval of the amended subdivision ordinance. I'll make a motion on this based on the fact that we've had public hearings. We've been through a process of several years in trying to adopt this. A lot of the development that's gone into Spanish Valley has been without guidance, and I think it's high time that we have an ordinance that applies to that area that will create some guiding principles that Landmark has put a lot of work into. And so with that, I'd move that we approve the subdivision ordinance has been presented today.
Can I present a point of order?
Point of order?
Yes, just a comment on a point of order.
You don't need to take a comment.
No.
You don't need to take a comment.
Point of order.
Sir, a point of order will be raised if an audience or somebody making a comment to the references. But right now, the county commissioners are taking an action on this particular item. So we already have a motion, but if you wish to, you would have jumped in before the motion was set.
I tried to, but I understand. But the point of order is very short. There has been no public hearings on these ordinances. There has been a public hearing on this plan. Do not confuse the two, and the people are confusing it. The public doesn't even know, has seen the ordinances. You must have public hearings on the plan, done that very well. But the company was negligent in not presenting the ordinance.
Okay, well, that's ample time, and please don't. Okay, we have a motion to adopt this ordinance. Do I have a second? Once again, a motion has been made. Do I have a second? With that, the motion dies. So continue on down to consideration for approval change. That's the one we're at, right? Thank you very much. Okay, Natalie.
Sorry, commissioners, there's another public hearing, yes,
Over there?
that.
Yeah. 11:45.
Okay.
But we can't consider
yeah,
that unless this first one is passed.
Okay, so we just
we
go
go
ahead
on.
and skip that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question? So Commissioner Gray Eyes, what do we want to do with Spanish Valley? Do we just let it keep unorganized?
There was comments made, I believe, from the residents, and there was a statement made that Hat Creek wasn't included in the planning, and those people, those individuals came to voice their concern. The other thing is that I understand that a lot of these allotments, residential allotments, are multi-resident type of withdrawals, and that is, I don't believe that that's accepted by the local voice up there. The other thing is the night sky. I don't know exactly who has the what bolts and nuts on it, but I believe if they want to include that, that's an option to them. So in those terms, if it's later, if it's not included in the original plan, it's going to be, I guess it would be lighting as it is. But if adopted, that's going to be a costly change, either imposed on the individual, not the planning and zoning, or San Juan County. So those are my reasons for staying neutral. So until those resolutions are resolved, not resolution, difference are resolved, then I would support it. I think it's just to let you know where I stand. I think the went up there, met with the people, and that's the kinds of communication I received. And that's it. If that's a violation, I don't know.
Well, without any planning documents to plan the valley, then it just goes ahead and people build unorganized without any restrictions, doing what they're doing. That's my only concern.
Mm-hmm. Well, there needs to be, the planning and zoning would need to be directed.
So it's illegal for the commissioners to direct the planning and zoning. They're their own separate board.
Yeah.
So we can't tell them how to vote.
That's what needs to happen, is direct them to do a conscious plan and zoning in terms of how it should be, as stated, where the residential's commercial section, industrial section. I look at this. I've driven through that section before, several times, last month, and I see construction going on. And as I heard, is there a plan for a lane highway down the road somewhere? Is that the reason why?
That's a UDOT plan, we don't know.
See, those are, and the airstrip. I don't know exactly what. I'd like to know where it's at, the current status, instead of saying, yeah, it does, it has been a private airstrip. Is it going to be commercial, or that's going to be developed and so forth? And there was some questions on there, no clear answer as to the buffer zone, to the airstrip, to commercial industrial development. See.
Commissioner, can I make a statement?
I normally don't go over an item that's been voted down. In this case, the item died.
I'm not going to try to be persuasive. I'm just going to put some context.
I understand. I allowed it to where Kelly asked a question, why the vote turned out the way it was. So pretty much Mr. Gray has explained his position, but I haven't made a comment yet, but I'll allow you to.
Well, Commissioner Gray has made the comment that the Planning Commission hasn't made a structured attempt to create this plan. This has been in the works, like was said, for well over a year. We had our first meeting on this exact ordinance back in November of 2018. We've had a meeting in November, December, January, February. We've had our March meeting, which is 5 meetings with public hearings at several of those meetings to discuss this exact ordinance that we're talking about today. None of these people behind me that commented today that said they had no knowledge attended those meetings. They are all published on the Utah Public Notice website. Anybody can go there with internet access to find out when these meetings are being held. I feel like these people at the nth hour are holding up a year's worth of work saying they didn't know when they didn't make the attempt to know until this meeting. And so it's frustrating to hear the Planning Commission kind of get thrown under the bus for not doing their due diligence when that's exactly what they've done.
Well, I understand, Walter. I know it's frustrating. It was a lengthy time to do what we had to do to work with either side. What if I make one more recommendation? One more public hearing. Meet with the people there and fully explain exactly what's going to take place. And whether we like it or not, or good or bad, that's what we're here for.
Well,
so
we can schedule a meeting and advertise it as we have.
Well, this time make it the old way. Post them all over the place. Public hearing, Spanish Valley. And then if we do that, then we're going to go ahead and have a public hearing. That way, I think it's best to have both sides understand. And if the same comment's still coming up, then we'll just make a decision.
Okay. Fair enough.
So with that, we'll leave it at that. So thank you very much. And so we get out of the.
Yeah, so we don't need to hold the other public hearing. There's no need to, so.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, again, thank you very much, Bruce. Let's see how this next one comes up, and I understand because I deal with chapters the same way too. So let's see where this goes. Okay, moving on. Consideration for approval change Spanish Valley. Oh, we've already done that. So Walter Bird.
Sorry, Natalie's up.
Natalie's first.
Oh, okay, Natalie.
So we brought this to a couple work meetings just to explain the short-term rental software. STR helper. I don't know if that looks familiar. Oh, you're looking at my suntan. Sorry. I went skiing this weekend.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay.
It must be phone. I thought it was word paint or something.
Sorry, I should have clarified that. So I brought this short-term rental helper software to a couple of meetings, and we've talked about it in work meetings, but we're just bringing the final contract now for approval. I don't know if there's any questions. The specific parts of the software that we're looking at doing are the comprehensive discovery section, and that is to find out where all the short-term rentals are located across the county. We have a pretty significant leakage of, as mentioned in many previous conversations, of short-term rentals and properties that exist, but we aren't able to track them, or they're supposed to be taxed and paying tax, but they aren't paying the tax. TRT was mentioned in earlier conversations, so that addresses this issue. Another piece of that is the permitting and registration for those properties, and then the last piece of that is the tax compliance of those properties. All of the cost of this software can be covered by the TRT funds that are used to mitigate the impacts of tourism. So there's funding available for that from that allocated funds. That's all. I don't know if there's any questions.
Okay, any questions, Commissioner? Thank you very much, Natalie.
So she wants to purchase this software, so you're here today to get approval to move forward on that software.
And that's already in your budget too, right?
Yeah, there's the funding for it because it's from the TRT that comes in, so yeah.
Okay.
It doesn't say how much it's going to cost.
And that was the sheet that we provided in the work meeting. So $12,500 is for the comprehensive discovery, and that covers all Airbnb, HomeAway, VRBO, TripAdvisor, Booking.com, individual websites where people might have properties listed. $5,000 for permitting and registration, and then $2,500 for tax compliance.
Commissioners?
Well, I'll make a motion, we approve the request.
Motion's been made to approve the request for the software. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gray Eyes. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do I just give this one, John David?
Walter Bird.
I don't know where he went. Maybe go to John David.
Oh, okay. John?
Okay, so last commission meeting, James was here and he presented the application for a beer license for a site out at Hyatt Arena to be able to sell beer. And so we're just looking for your approval on that.
Okay. Ray Golden, President. Okay, Commissioner.
I'll be brief.
We're motion another item.
Oh, okay.
Motion.
Oh, motion by Commissioner Gray Eyes to approve the beer license, and second by Commissioner Adams.
Thank you.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Walter?
Okay, like I said, I'll be brief. I've just got one new hire to get approved. It's for the landfill labor position. We actually had to advertise this position for about 3 months before we got an applicant we were comfortable with. We interviewed 6 people. We'd like to offer Sam Pittman the position. This is a full-time position with the landfill.
Which landfill?
It's the main landfill just south of White Mesa. Yeah.
Okay. Motion by Gray Eyes for approval.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. And where do I put my John hand?
At the very bottom, that last line.
That it?
Very good, yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Walter. Kelly?
I don't have anything, Commissioner.
Okay. Bruce, we come to a resolution. Kelly, can you please read the entirety of the resolution into the record?
Resolution supporting the leasing and oil of gas resources on Bureau of Land Management and administered leases in San Juan County, Utah in the March 20th, 2018 lease sale. Whereas San Juan County has historically mined and produced its abundant mineral and energy resources, including oil, natural gas, copper, uranium, vanadium, sand, and gravel, among others. Whereas the mineral and energy industry has provided jobs and become a part of the county lifestyle and culture. Whereas tax revenue and royalties from the mineral, energy, industrial have been a major component of county revenues. Whereas the state of Utah has recognized mineral and energy rich zones in San Juan County through passage of HB 393 Energy Zone Amendments, March 23rd, 2015, designed to prioritize mineral and energy exploitation and development. Whereas the San Juan County Resource Management Plan recognizes the importance of the minerals and energy industry and supports the efficient and responsible exploration and development of mineral and energy resources. Whereas the majority of mineral rights in San Juan County are held by the federal government. Whereas the Bureau of Land Management is the primary agency charged with managing federal mineral rights. Whereas BLM has determined areas suitable for leasing of oil and gas resources through its land use planning process, which includes the addition of lease stipulations designed to mitigate impacts to the environment and protect sensitive resources in accordance with federal laws, including the Antiquities Act of 1906 and the National Historic Preservation Act of 1966, among others. Whereas BLM periodically holds oil and gas lease parcel sales for various regions in the state of Utah. Whereas BLM held an oil and gas lease sale on March 20th, 2018 that included lease parcels in San Juan County. Therefore, be it resolved that the San Juan County Board of County Commissioners supports the leasing of those parcels in San Juan County that were offered and leased in BLM March 20th, 2018 oil and gas lease sale.
Thank you, Kelly. Bruce, I will allow you some time to maybe talk to the resolution.
Okay. This lease sale took place last year, a year ago in March. Those parcels have been leased by the BLM. What we're doing today is just stating an opinion that we support the leasing as long as it was done according to the law, and that they considered every possible mitigation, every possible damage that could be done to any of the resources. Whether we pass this today or not will not change the fact that those parcels have already been leased. So I would propose and make a motion that we adopt this resolution today.
Okay. A motion has been made to adopt a resolution that deals with the oil leases on top of the McCracken Mesa to
It was south of Blanding. I don't think it got down to McCracken Mesa.
How far is it away from?
1 inch. 1 inch away from the McCracken Mesa. The nearest.
I think he's out of order. I think we're in.
You're right. I apologize.
We're in discussion amongst the commissioners, and we're not receiving comment from the public. And I don't appreciate Josh mouthing off like he has been.
Order. Recognize that. So a motion has been made. Do I have a second? Once again, a motion has been made. Do I have a second to this resolution? 1, 2, 3. This item dies. Thank you very much.
Anybody want to know why? Why paint the same horse a different color? Mr. Adams already told me. It's going through. It's done deal. So that's why.
Okay. Next resolution, Kelly, can you read that into the record? And if Bruce would allow, you might care to. Thank you.
Maybe $5.
Resolution directing that the county administrator compile a packet of supporting documents, reports, data, and/or other information for each agenda item and include this packet of information with each commission meeting agenda and post same online prior to the commission meeting wherein it will be considered. Whereas the purpose of transparency and good government and to improve decision making, the public awareness and involvement is critical to provide adequate and complete information concerning all items of county business that are discussed, considered, voted upon, and otherwise dealt with at each commission meeting prior to commission meetings. Whereas the commission agenda is posted at least 24 hours prior to the commission meeting, and there are currently no supporting documents, reports, data, and other information included in the commission agenda that is posted online for the public to review. Whereas including packet of supporting documents, reports, including those of county department heads and other employees and representatives from county boards, agencies, and commission, data or other information for each agenda item along with the commission agenda would greatly improve government transparency and public awareness of the issues facing the county. Whereas the county administrator is the person to be best suited to compile the supporting documents, reports, data, or other background information for each agenda item and include this information with the commission agenda that is posted on the county website and the Utah Public Notice website 24 hours or more prior to the commission meetings. Now, therefore, be it resolved, Section 1, the county administrator shall compile all supporting documents, reports, data, and other background information for each agenda item and include this information with each county commission agenda posted. And at the same time as the posting of the agenda on the San Juan County website and the Utah Public Notice website for all future county commission meetings beginning with the March 5th, 2019 commission meeting.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I might say that the resolution is a little outdated already. It was supposed to begin on March 5th, and we're already past that date. So I think that the staff does a good job in trying to get everything posted. I'm not sure that this resolution is relevant, but I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All against it, and I'll vote against it. Pass the chair back to Kenneth.
Thank you very much. Going down to Commissioner's report. Commissioners, would you like to start with Commissioner Adam or Gray Eyes? Okay, Bruce.
Let's see, I think on Thursday, John Curtis will be in the county in Spanish Valley. If I'm not mistaken, at 8 o'clock. Is that right, Kelly?
Yes.
And wants to look at the work that's been done on the sewer and water project down there.
You guys are welcome to come to that.
And Kelly, I have on my calendar that there's a SITLA visit meeting on the 27th. Is that 27th and 28th? Is that wrong? Is that supposed to be the 20th and 21st? Brian's gone, isn't 21st?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was wrong there. Then I have AOG on the 28th, and I think that meeting's in Moab, so that's all I've got.
Okay. Thank you for the information on John Curtis, Commissioner Adams, and Willie, do you have any report?
Not really. At this time, but the only concern I have is the San Juan County land use plan and other related plans that are in the books now. And all of them delineates where Monticello, Blaney, Bluff, and other little places that are up here. But none is indicative of Mexican water, Natasan, Ocheto, all those areas. Why are we being excluded? So, in the planning purpose, those are significant, I think. It does, and I'd like to see, hopefully, in the future that we are reflected in those postures, so that we can say, if somebody says, I am from Mexican water, Washington, then they know where it is. A lot of times when you go to Washington, they have no beans of where these communities are. And you have to sit there and educate them about population, the language, and the landscape, and so forth. So that's would be my recommendation. Mr. Pearson.
I'm not involved in the land use plans, but I know the reservation's federal land, so it's hard to plan specific purposes on federal land. So, you know, where there's private property here and
yeah, we are part of you. You are part of us.
Yeah.
So why deny the other half? So
if we can land plan, I would love your help to plan it, but it's federal land. I don't know what else we can do. So
we've been told by the Navajo Nation NDOT that we have no rights to even maintain roads on the reservation. That
I think there's just a concept. I would push for something working, coordinating, rather than separatism.
We've tried for the 14 years I've been on the commission to get any communication opened up between the Navajo Nation and the San Juan County Commission. So I look forward to both Willie and Kenneth opening up that dialogue with the Navajo Nation that we've never had before.
And I'm still knocking on the door to the president's office.
Yeah, right.
So, is that your...
Yes, that's...
Okay,
that's
thank you very much,
my,
Commissioners. Well, I don't have a whole lot to report. I've been staying around and staying within the counties and drove miles and miles of alongside the San Juan River and did a lot of hiking. And thank you very much, Kelly, that the first response to the incident was our San Juan County police officers to the incident where a young girl, a 3-year-old, supposedly have either walked into the river or been carried off by cougars. And people still been looking, and there was tons of people from all over the place hiking back and forth down the river. And Kelly and I, we've went to the chapter house and they had a briefing there. They allowed Kelly in there, but they wouldn't allow me to go in there, so I guess they don't allow Navajos in there. So nevertheless, we did a lot of work, and up to last night, we stayed out there. The gold mine sprang another leak into the river, so they let everybody go, but the community and the family continue to search for the baby. We took a walk. My wife and I, we took a hike towards the north of where the incident took place, and a couple of guys started hiking up in that area. And out, I'd say about maybe a couple of 100 yards away from the river, they found the child's fresh diaper. So we've been trying to contact the police officers, and I don't know what was going on at the chapter, but I ended up calling Ferguson here and relayed the message back down to the chapter and told those officers that there's an incident that they found some items. So the rest of the afternoon, they pretty much investigated that, and the father came around and identified the diaper, and that was the diaper that was bought the 2 days before in Cortez for the child. So the searches continue to go, and I'd like to thank the Utah Navajo Health System. They were out there hiking around, giving out snacks and Gatorade and water bottle, and Kelly and I, we pretty much help as much as well from the county side to those people that were hiking miles in the hot sun, to give them some drinks. And other than that, I have not traveled anywhere else, and I will probably stay around till the next commissioners meeting. And that will be the extent of my report. And thank you very much for those of you that attended the county commissioners meeting. And I think at some point in time, probably recap on a lot of things that we're working on and what needs to take place and what we need to do. So thank you very much, and I believe that adjournment will be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Priority motion, you don't need a second. Priority motion.
All right.
Motion, second.
All those in favor?
All
right.
It's one day.
You can just take mine if you want me to take. You can have mine. I have it electronically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Bruce, I apologize for mouthing off. He asked a question and I had the answer to it, and I should not say anything. I apologize.
It was uncalled for, Josh. I don't appreciate it.
It was uncalled for.
I appreciate you conducting meetings as security and understand your point of view.
This is just the contract, and that's yours.
Know how you feel about it, but
I apologize.
I didn't get a signature, sorry.
Fantastic.
For the STR helper.
Oh, okay.
Fantastic.
Thank you. It popped out.
Put what sign?
Just right here. Thank you.
Don't even talk to me.
A couple of weeks ago, we had a piece of property that we sold right here.
Oh, yes, I'm aware of that.
Where it was just a small piece that was county owned, but there was an interest by a citizen to purchase it, so we had to put a notice of the sale for 2 weeks in the paper and then have the auction. Anyway, they came and bought it, but
who's their notary?
Natalie Randall.
do you turn this off?
Huh?
How do you turn this off?
Anyway, but do you want me to look at her and see if she can come in?
Yeah, go ahead and notarize it. Let's do it official so that way.
Okay. And then there's that too.
I wonder if he. Where did John David go?
What about Spanish Valley? We do the same thing. We'll bring that, whatever we need to do, we'll bring that back and